Viewer discretion is advised.
What?
Ready when you are.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Three Geeks Flix. Joining me, as always, is the Muse, Justin Kyle. Say hello, everyone, Justin.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, and of course, I'm the Tech Mitchell Wright. We're back, and we have a little something different for you here. We wanted to look at the DCEU as a whole. Justice League coming out Friday. I'm sure there's some Thursday night showings and everything. There's been some things leaked and said about it. There's been a few reviews that, have been thrown out there that are just brief kind of run-throughs, nothing really deep, though some people may be, not obeying by the supposed embargo that's in place. But we really wanted to sit down and we wanted to look at everything that's come from the DCEU right now as a whole and just kind of wax philosophical on our feelings and what we think and what's coming and what we can hope for, but what we've heard. So, as I always do, I look to you, good Muse, and say, Justin, give it to me. What you got?
Well, to start off with, Man of Steel released in 2013.
Okay.
It's interesting. The trailers and marketing for every DCEU film has been pretty great.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, I give you that all day long.
I think, in my opinion, the overall marketing for Man of Steel is pretty much equal to that of Suicide Squad. Those are radically different products, final products.
Yes.
What I really appreciate about Man of Steel is overall I'd give it a 9. We've talked about this at length.
We have.
It's not a perfect film.
No,
but it
not by any means.
It has brilliant moments in it of emotion and action.
It really does.
It really does. I think it's underrated as far as superhero films.
It is. I think a lot of people griped about things that they really shouldn't have griped at because, that was their whole idea of a more gritty and real feel to a superhero movie. And it's what they did.
Right. I know a lot of people, the number one thing is they kept comparing it to the Christopher Reeves movies, which that's natural, I guess. People are going to do that, especially with the performance. Mm-hmm. But again, I admired what they did when they were trying to make it, I guess, more gritty. That's just another word for realistic, I think.
Yes.
And I like how they focus on how much isolation the origin of Superman really was. So yeah, the first one was I think bound to be a little dark and gritty, for sure. Even in the opening, the very opening scene of Man of Steel was the birth of Superman, which I thought was perfect because they went in there. Let's not kid ourselves. They went in there knowing that they were going to plan an extended universe, right?
Yes.
At first, when it came out, they said no, we're not sure. We just dropped little nuggets. I don't buy that for a second. I think they knew what they were doing from the start. So the birth of literally the first superhero in any way, shape, or form in any cinematic universe, Marvel, DC, whatever.
Yeah.
Was Superman. So they focus on literally the birth of the first one to start their universe was phenomenal. That scene is exquisite. Mm-hmm. The music, the Hans Zimmer score, the lighting of it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
The chronological order, the flashbacks, the action. I mean, again, it's not a perfect film, but it had a lot of heartfelt moments. I think Cavill is underrated as Superman, to be honest.
I will definitely walk with you side by side on that analysis as a whole. I quite frankly don't see what all the problem was. There was a lot of destruction, but the thing is they had to answer for it in subsequent movies afterwards, in all the sequels, and they still are, and
right.
They very well still maybe to some extent. So I think it flowed fine. I didn't have any problem with its pacing. I enjoyed the story. The CG and everything was great on it. It didn't feel cheesy at all by any means, if you ask me. It was solid. It was right on. The acting was on par. I mean, there wasn't anybody I could say that was weak, to be honest. So I don't see what all the gripe was with that movie. And I mean, I believe I gave it like a 9 or 9.5 as well. I gave it a great score. I thought it was a fantastic movie in my mind, in my sight. And I think a lot of people just wanted Marvel, and they'd seen Marvel, and it's what they expected. And when they were faced with something more real, they had a hard time swallowing that pill.
Yeah, and again, like you highlighted, one of the biggest complaints was the destruction at the end. I mean, it was realistic.
Yes.
And again, if you're looking at it logically from a logical standpoint, again, he wasn't even Superman yet. I mean, he had never been in a fight when he really fought the two Kryptonians in Smallville, as well as especially Zod at the end. I mean, he literally had never thrown a punch before that hour, if you want to get technical, and I liked it. I liked how realistic, and it was showing the power, what it would be realistically if two gods, semi-gods, demigods, I guess, were fighting in a populated area.
Absolutely.
And again, I think the plan was for them to use that moving forward, which they did brilliantly in the opening scenes of Batman v Superman.
Yes, which followed.
Right, and Batman v Superman, when I first saw it, as you know, it kind of broke my heart a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
At first. Now, I've seen a lot of the extended edition, and it is better by far. It's a lot better. And that would have made it like a 2-hour and 50-minute movie, possibly 3 hours.
Yeah, but it filled in a lot of the gaps that felt very jumpy.
I wish they would have done that. I don't care. I would have rather them done that than release what they had, because it does have pacing issues. It does have tone issues.
That was some of my biggest gripes.
Correct. It has some great things too. I mean, the fight scene between Batman and Superman was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, visually and the emotion. Regardless of what you think about the Martha thing, that doesn't bother me in that fight scene, which I'm focusing on that fight scene because literally it's called Batman v Superman. I mean, that should have been the highlight. But, I mean, yeah, there's a lot to like about Batman v Superman. It does have some rewatchability, which you can't say that for all DC movies thus far. And obviously the marketing, if we're talking about the marketing, they did pretty good except for that one complete strikeout. That would be the third trailer.
That would be the Ninja Turtle looking Abomination / Doomsday trailer.
Yeah, get that out of here. Yeah. That should have never happened.
Now, that love child should have never been made. And I'm going to leave it at that because anything else I say will be rather offensive.
Yeah, I mean, that and one of the negative aspects that I thought was they were very. I don't think they thought through the story a lot. I mean, I was not a fan of Eisenberg's Lex Luthor at all. I didn't like the way he acted. I thought literally he was like more the Riddler than.
He felt like a loose cannon than more like an actual thought, an actual planned out, made out, maniacal thought. And when you think of Lex Luthor, you think of calm, cool, collected, genius, plan, not a puppet.
Right. Right, and I think the problem is they're setting up these especially at first. Yeah. They were trying to set up this kind of gritty and darker tone. And a lot of the story decisions and character decisions weren't gritty and dark. No. Like they're silly. They weren't consistent. So literally they were almost like a paradox as far as character and character motivations in this world they were trying to establish. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a lot of the problem. Even at the end, I mean, when obviously we knew that Doomsday was going to be in there, but I have to admire DC for what they're doing. Even from the start, they are swinging for the fences. They're taking risks, and they all haven't worked out.
Right.
But I do admire them for swinging for the fences every single time.
Well, and you've said that you admire that they went straight, they picked up the big bat and tried to make the home run hit, and they haven't necessarily made it. They've flied out a few times. And Justice League, it overall got the message across, though it was flawed, especially in the Martha thing and Lex Luthor, amongst the pacing of the story. But then you get to where we were being set up for Suicide Squad, and we had these amazing trailers, man. They were
Yeah.
tens, nines, and
Yeah.
tens, okay?
Yeah.
And I was so pumped, and I was ready to see my boy Leto. And I don't feel like he disappointed.
No. I mean, he wasn't bad, and
I feel like the studio stepped in and screwed things up again.
they did. I think the director has a part in that.
Yes.
Because again, he literally wrote the script 6 weeks before they started shooting.
Because they lost their previous guy, yeah.
That's not very smart pre-production.
Well, no, and they wanted it out, and they wanted it now, and it's like, why didn't you plan this years down the line, and why didn't you better tie it in to what you've already laid out? I quite frankly think that they should have tied those universes in and those movies in together, that ultimately, toward the end, you could have a finished, beautiful product, a lot like Marvel has done. And Marvel has done it well. And I'm not trying to really compare, because they're two very different animals when you really think about it. They're supposed to be.
They are supposed to be.
But, God. And I mean, Suicide Squad, it started with promise.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
And then I kind of started getting a bad feeling when all of a sudden the Enchantress became the bad guy. The main bad guy. And when Joker was clearly seen as a side man, as an antagonizer, and not as the actual antagonist. And then you saw the CGI, which felt awful and rushed. And Enchantress's brother, at no point did I feel he was ever cool looking or anything. I just wanted him gone. And then you hit the third act, and those little minions of her, those guys were kind of cool. They did a good job with them. I've got to give them that all day long. They looked neat as far as the look of them. Now, the actual practical function and the fact that they were in there, I wasn't a big
They were the
fan.
foot soldiers. They were the Chitauri of the Marvel or the DC. They were the Chitauri.
Exactly.
They were fine. There's nothing bad.
But it's just, I felt like that was something done already, and I honestly really just wanted it to be Leto's swan song, even if it was the end of it, or his welcoming, his awakening as the Joker.
Yeah.
And they completely passed the buck on that when they had a golden moment to do it. And not only did they go and do that, but half the scenes that they cut, were apparently very Joker heavy, which could have probably helped the story, and probably could have, some of the naysayers we still have today, put them to rest, because I quite frankly don't think we got to see the best of his work.
Yeah, you could be right. I mean, one of the first early versions of the story overall, it was going to be the Joker versus Suicide Squad. Even the David Ayer said way afterwards, after it had been released on DVD, he wishes that's what he would have done. Yeah, that would have been amazing.
That would have been a story upon stories, man.
Not only that, but think about what that would have set up for future films. I mean, it probably would have been inevitable when Joker would have actually taken on Batman. If they would have made Suicide Squad in that sense, it would have been a lot bigger threat. Like, we would have thought, man, this Joker is awesome. I don't know who's going to win, right? Because they did such a great job in Batman v Superman setting up how awesome Batman was. And he was straight.
Yeah, and now it makes me uneasy about what's coming in Suicide Squad 2. Because I wasn't really thrilled with 1's ending.
Well, they talked about introducing Black Adam in that. Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
Recently?
I saw that Dwayne Johnson, The Rock's Black Adam is going to come in that, and I'm just like, okay. I mean, I don't see a lot of people on that team that are extremely superhuman enough to hold a candle to him, but okay.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like it's just going to be an ass whooping.
We don't know. We don't know yet, but I'm glad you hit on the marketing because, again, the trailers for Suicide Squad, I didn't give any trailer pretty much below a 9.5. I'm pretty sure I gave 2 of them a 10.
Yes.
If I remember correctly.
Yes, we did. We did.
And again, like we already both agreed on, the DC from the start has swung for the fences. And we've already talked about how we admire them. Now, the flip side of that coin is when they have missed and they've struck out, they've been way too reactionary, in my opinion. Like, they've overcompensated when it doesn't miss. They haven't been cool after that. They've just been like, oh, what do we do? And they freak out, and sometimes they made even dumber decisions after that.
Yes. Horrible decisions.
Right. So, again, Suicide Squad, I mean, I don't think the rewatchability overall of Suicide Squad is not really there.
No.
The acting was great. Even Margot Robbie, Jared Leto, Will Smith did a good job.
Oh, yeah. Your main big stars were great. They just should have never let Adam Beach come on because
yeah, I know, right?
Slipknot was a joke.
I feel sorry for that actor, man.
And it's not Adam Beach's fault. I can't believe he actually agreed to do it.
I don't know. But, again, that's where, especially, it was silly. Mm-hmm. My biggest thing with Suicide Squad is a lot of times story and even character-wise and how the characters behaved. Not how they behaved. What the characters did
there we go.
Was silly. And, again, that's counterintuitive to the universe that they're setting up. Which is why it was just, it seemed really dark and gritty visually, but then when you see what they're saying and what they're doing, you're like, God, this is silly. Mm-hmm. I can't take this seriously, right? And it's interesting because if you look at, without trying to make a comparison, Guardians of the Galaxy, they ran with that. It's a silly movie and silly characters, and they ran with it, and that's why it worked. They weren't trying to do anything that.
Yes, they weren't trying to be one thing and bring in parts of another, and they just didn't work out. They were what they were, and they were that unapologetically.
And that's why I think Wonder Woman worked.
Yes.
Wonder Woman, as far as the marketing, that first trailer of Wonder Woman, which they released at Comic-Con, was pretty spectacular. I think that's one of the biggest reasons why Wonder Woman got the reception it did, is literally from the marketing all the way to the end of it, the visuals, the tone matched the character in what she was doing. It was consistent in tone, as well as character choices, as well as character development, and her path and her arc, her story arc even matched. Do I think in some parts Wonder Woman is rated properly? I think it's rated properly. At some parts, I think it was a little overrated at some parts, if I'm honest. I think a lot of times people thought it was because I personally like Man of Steel better than Wonder Woman. And I know I'm in the majority. Most people that I've talked to, critics alike and other people, they think Wonder Woman is the best DC movie. It was good.
It was good. I feel like that end fight scene could have been a little bigger. It was a
little silly, too. It was a little silly to me, but that's okay. Because in that aspect, it is a comic book movie. You know what I mean? Like, you have to say, look, it is a comic book movie.
Yeah, but if you're going to set a tone, keep the tone and match it. And if you're going to change it slowly over time. But don't change it too quickly, because then you're just going to throw everybody off, and you had one tone at the beginning and a different tone at the end. And it didn't do that. It threw in bits of silly and humor, and it did it right, and it set itself up. And that's why it worked so well, and that's why it was a good film, because it had a decent balance, and it had good pacing.
Well, it's interesting, even in that fight scene, when I say it's silly, I mean just visually. In some parts of it visually, I was like, it's a little silly. But it works because what they were saying, what they were fighting for, and how she was behaving was consistent. Her hope, her pureness, her innocence. Even in the fight scene, it was present. That's what we're talking about. If you look at that compared to like Suicide Squad, one of the biggest aspects that we talk about at length over and over is how important music plays when setting the tone of a movie, right? I got worried in Suicide Squad in the first 15 minutes when they literally changed the song 5 times in like 2 minutes. I was like, wait a second. These songs are awesome, but if you play them like this in like 30-second increments for each character, I think this may not work. You know what I mean? The score in Wonder Woman was pretty spectacular as well. It was consistent.
Throughout the movie, yes.
I liked it. One of the biggest things with Wonder Woman is what I really appreciated at the end of the movie was when you go back and you look and you rewatch the trailers, what you saw is what you got.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That was what almost kind of broke my heart so much with Suicide Squad. It was nothing like the trailers implied, pretty much, in my opinion, especially the first couple of trailers.
Absolutely. And what was I'm trying to remember, what was the number that you gave Wonder Woman?
I think I gave it an 8.
Yep. I think I gave it an 8.5.
Solid scores. They should be very proud of those.
Great, good movies. Right.
Very proud. Wonder Woman is. And I think Gal Gadot played the character very, very well. She's literally,
Absolutely.
and I have to give her props, and this is something that DC did. I mean, we have to acknowledge they did the first, again, they swung for the fences, they did the first full female superhero. I mean, she was a Christopher Reeves, pretty much, of female superheroes now. You know what I mean? She will always be iconic as Wonder Woman, I think, moving forward.
Right.
Like, that was her pretty much go-to character.
Because the Halle Berry Catwoman doesn't count because she's really not a hero. And
Neither does Elektra.
That was not, no.
Neither does Elektra.
No, Electra does
I'm not counting
count
those.
either. No.
Those didn't really exist.
They weren't epic films.
Yeah, epic failures. But yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So we got to Wonder Woman and things are going. What are your feelings on Justice League, given that what you've heard already?
You know what's interesting? I've had this discussion with a coworker of mine who will not be named, who is a subscriber. I respect his opinion. He is a full-fledged geek. I'm not going to say his name. I think and at this point, you and I have pretty much seen the reviews, right?
Yes.
We know what other people think of it, and it's unfair for us to say that's not going to influence our decision going in, you know, because I trust these people's opinions. A lot of people that I review. If I was to exclude those, just remembering back on when I thought of the trailers, I remember thinking specifically, it looked crazy action-packed.
Yeah.
But I knew it was a little under 2 hours, literally including credits. It's 2 hours and 1 minute, so it's under 2 hours.
Wow.
I was thinking they're going to do a lot within a little time span. I was worried about pacing. No one's complained about really the pacing. They've all said the pacing was appropriate, which is good.
Good.
I think it's going to be a fun ride. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be one of those where it's not a think piece. It's just, in the first Avengers wasn't a think piece. It wasn't like a Captain America Civil War or Winter Soldier.
No.
You know what I mean? It was literally simple plot. Let's get to it. Let's get the action. Let's get the popcorn out. Let's turn off your brain and enjoy this ride. If they can pull that off, which I'm confident that they will, kudos for them. It worked out. You're on the right path.
Right.
Keep doing what you're doing.
And that's what I've seen. It's a fun ride. It's not a flawless film by any means. The characters are good. The acting is solid. The CG is a little at times, but overall, it's a fun ride, is what I've seen. Don't expect to go in and think and have your mind blown, but enjoy yourself.
And again, we need to keep in mind this production has kind of been played with bad luck. You know what I mean? So I'm not talking not only the tragedy that happened with Snyder. There have been other things, scheduling, things of that nature. So yeah, I mean, if I walk out and I can say that was fun, I enjoyed that, win-win. I do think that when I think they're swinging for the fences, because it has a $300 million budget. It has a crazy budget, and you can even look at the trailers and be like, the action looks crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can tell. I think how they're swinging to the fences in this one is just going to be the fun and epicness of the action. I think that's what they're going for. So if they nail what they were going for, then I'd say that they succeeded.
I mean, that's what we hope for. And that's what we're wanting. And, I don't think it's going to have the deep tones and everything like Man of Steel. I don't think we're going to get the feels and everything like we might have with that. And in some of the more solo projects, as long as things go well with Justice League, that we will get, I think we will have those doors open with other characters. But I think it's time that we just had a good, fun-filled action ride with all these beloved figures from the DC universe in a decent, solid show that doesn't leave us shaking our heads and going, what the hell did they just do with that third act? So
right.
That's ultimately where I'm at. Please let me leave and be like, yeah, I felt good about that. And not walk out and go, what in the hell did these idiots do this time? What big wig, fat bastard at Warner Brothers come up with now?
Right.
And then that's really, that's as far as I can go, because if I go any further, I'm probably going to piss more people off.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. Literally, the movie, which has been their biggest movie and probably their most important movie up to here, because if this movie would have failed, which we don't know if it will yet, we don't know the box office is in, and that ultimately is the ultimate success for a studio from their perspective. Is how much money did they make?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to fail, but that's what I mean by it's most significant. This movie, which is their most significant, has had the worst instant happen to it. Literally, they had to lose their director.
Yep.
Like, think about that. Midway through production, they lost. It'd be like a picture losing its painter and having someone else having to come in and try to finish a masterpiece.
And it'll be interesting to see how much of that we can tell. It'll be interesting to see. I haven't really heard much about that. I haven't really heard a lot of people like compare it to like an AI, to where you felt like everything was very Kubrick, and then all of a sudden Spielberg came in and wrapped it up with a nice little neat happy bow at the end.
Yeah, I've heard two things, and they were a little conflicting. One of them I heard from a trusted source. He said that he couldn't really tell at all. It seemed seamless, like one movie, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one I heard that it was a little. You could definitely tell in some parts, just from tonal shifts and some of the humor. Because it's interesting. They said from the beginning, and I believe this, that they were going to make this more lighthearted even before Snyder quit. So they added a little bit more jokes and one-liners, right? They said some of the humor from the early versions of Snyder's isn't near as funny as Joss Whedon's, which I completely would agree with.
Oh, I would agree that completely.
Yeah. I mean, his wit. I mean, it's unparalleled. I think all the way back to his TV days. But that's me.
That's just you, and that's just about all we've got to say about that. So check us out on Facebook, 3 Geeks Flix. Give us a like, comment, holler, troll us. You don't do Facebook, we got Twitter. It's at the number 3 Geeks Flix. Flix is, of course, spelled Flix. Give us a holler there. Give us a follow there. Troll there, folks. Get involved. You are the third geek. You're on YouTube now. Subscribe, like, comment. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to say about these shows that maybe we didn't catch, we didn't pick up on, or quite frankly, we just didn't want to talk about. So that's going to be where you pick it up and run with it. And, if you drop it down, we just might smell what you're cooking and pick it up for you then. So that's about as clever as I get tonight, okay?
It was good. I liked it.
I don't know where else I'm going with this, okay? I'm looking for you for some heavy lifting.
You don't know where you're going. That makes two of us. Let's find out together.
I feel like I just had a motivational speech.
You can do this, Tony Robbins.
Anyways, appreciate y'all sticking around, and stay tuned to the glow of those monitors. We're going to catch you next time. Good night.